Hi, I'm Professor Hale, and this is my beginner's guide to Adobe Premiere Pro. By the end of this video, you'll be able to edit and publish your own content. You'll learn about workspace layout, how to import and organize footage, basic cutting and trimming, how to add background music and transitions to your sequences, some basic audio mixing, and how to export your project. When you open Premiere Pro, the first thing you'll see is the home page. This is where you'll open previous projects by selecting them down here or by clicking the Open Project button, or you can start a new project. Under the Home button on the left-hand side of the window, you'll find the Learn tab. Click that to access a variety of tutorials that will help you to learn how to use Premiere Pro. Alright, so to start a new project, click New Project. This will bring up the New Project window. There's a lot of stuff here that you can do, but I'm going to show you the basics to get you editing as soon as possible. At the top of the window, you can name your project. Under Location, you'll determine where your Premiere Pro project file will be saved. Below that, you'll see a tab labeled Scratch Disks. This will determine where the raw footage files will be stored for your projects. If you're working with external storage devices, be sure that you assign the correct location as the scratch disk for your project. For many of you, you won't really need to mess around with any of these parameters beyond naming your project. So let's name our project and click OK. The Premiere Pro interface is organized into a number of panels. You can click and drag panels to move them around. You can also click on the edge of a panel to resize it. There's a lot you can do with all of these things to customize it to your preferences. At the top of the window, you'll see a list of 8 words: learning, assembly, editing, color, effects, and so on. These are workspaces. Each one of these workspaces will rearrange the panels in Premiere Pro and tailor them for a particular task. If you're just starting out, you'll probably spend most of your time in the editing workspace, so that's where we'll focus our efforts here in this video. So our screen is divided into 6 areas. On the bottom left, you'll see the project panel. This is where you'll store your media assets that you'll be working with in your project. You can import music, video, image, and graphics into Premiere Pro, and they'll live here in the project panel. To the right of that is the tools panel. I'll talk about that more in a bit. At the bottom of the screen is the timeline. This is where you'll be doing your editing. To the right of that, we have an audio meter where you can monitor the volume of your project. In the upper right, we have the program monitor. This is where you'll view the project that you're working on in your timeline. In the upper left, we have the source monitor. This panel is where you can preview your raw media assets before you drop them into the timeline. Okay, so that's a quick overview of the panels in the editing workspace. If all this seems abstract or complicated, don't panic. Things will become a lot clearer and eventually intuitive once you start doing some editing. So let's do that. To get started, you need to import media assets into your project. You can do this 2 ways. You can pull up the media content that you want to import. I'm on a Mac, so I do that by clicking the Finder. That's the icon at the bottom left of your screen with a face. I find my media, and then I can click and drag that into the project panel. Alternatively, you can click File from the menu bar at the top of the screen, and then click Import. After that, you need to find the content that you want to bring into your project and click Import. After this, we'll make a sequence and start editing. There are a few different ways to do this. I'll show you a couple of options, and I'll tell you when and why you might choose one method over the other. The super quick way of creating a sequence is to click onto a clip in your project panel. Hold it and drag the clip over into the timeline. This will create a sequence. If we look at the timeline here, you'll notice that there are 2 blocks of content. The top bar is your video, and the bottom one is the audio. These are linked together, meaning that when you click and drag that clip to move it around on the timeline, they'll move as a single unit. You could then edit this piece of content, drag and drop other clips onto the timeline, cut and trim, or rearrange them. This is my usual workflow if I'm working on a project with a short runtime that doesn't involve a lot of clips, particularly long ones. This brings us to another way that you might create a sequence on the timeline. Instead of dragging your clip out of the project panel into the timeline, double-click it. This will allow you to preview the entire clip in the source panel. You can click the play button or hit the space bar to play or pause the clip in the source monitor, or you can click and drag the playhead to scrub through it. Once you've found the part of the clip that you want to include in your timeline, you'll need to create what are called in and out points to designate where the clip should start and stop. To mark your in and out points, you can either click these buttons, the left one for in and the right one for out, or, and this will save you a lot of time, you can press the I key for in and the O key for out. Then click the clip in the source panel and drag it into the timeline. To undo or clear an in or out point, you can press Option key plus I to clear the in point, or Option plus O to clear the out point. To clear both the in and out points together, press Option and X. For longer projects with multiple clips, I tend to edit using this second method. It allows me to preview, sort, and evaluate raw footage, and then I only drop what I need into my timeline. For short projects like social media posts, memes, and even video lectures, I'll drag my footage from the project panel directly into the timeline and then cut and trim from there. Try both methods and see what works best for you. Last option before we start cutting and trimming, you can also create a new sequence by clicking File in the menu bar and then New Sequence. Okay, once we have footage in our timeline, Premiere Pro has a variety of tools to edit that content. To do a lot of this work, you'll be using the tools in the tool panels here to the left of the timeline. There are 9 tools in the panel, and 6 of them, the tools with tiny arrows in the bottom right-hand corner, have additional functions. To access these auxiliary functions, you just need to click and hold the button until the submenu pops up. Then select the function that you want to use. If you let your mouse hover over a tool, you'll see the name or function of the tool pop up, as well as a keyboard shortcut. When you're first getting started, I'd wager that most, maybe like 80 or 90% of your editing work will be done with just 2 tools. The selection tool, which looks like a cursor, and the razor blade tool, which looks like a double-edged razor blade. The keyboard shortcut for the selection tool is the letter V, and the razor blade is C. The selection tool will allow you to click and drag and thus rearrange clips in your timeline. If you place your cursor at the end or the beginning of a clip, it will change into a red bracket with an arrow in it. You can click the clip and drag it to either lengthen or shorten the selected clip. If you click a clip, hold, and drag the cursor upward, you can move the block of video in your timeline onto a higher track on the timeline. You can also do the same with the audio. Click the clip, hold, and drag it down until your audio drops down onto a lower track. This will be a helpful tool when you start overlapping video and audio. Another important thing to know is how to zoom in on your timeline. At the right-hand side of the timeline, you'll see a pair of scroll bars, one for video and another for audio. There's also a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the timeline. You can click the circles on the scroll bar and drag it to zoom into your audio or video. If you're on a Mac or have a trackpad, you can also use pinch gestures to zoom. Zooming into your timeline is an essential tool when you're doing fine edits with video and audio, especially the latter. When you zoom in on your audio, you'll actually be able to see the waveform, a visual representation of your audio. While this might not mean much to you if you've never had a lot of experience recording or editing audio, it's going to become a crucial part of your editing workflow in the future. Now to the razor blade tool. Click the razor blade button or press C on your keyboard. This tool is simple and effective. Find a place in your timeline where you want to make a cut. Click there, and it's done. You can then delete extraneous clips, move them around, rearrange your clips with the selection tool, and then jump back over to the razor blade and make more cuts. So let's say that you've dropped a few clips into your timeline. You've arranged them, made some cuts, and you're happy with the results. Now you want to add background music. You can import the audio content that you want to put into your project and then drop it onto your sequence below or above the existing audio in your timeline. But what if the background music is too loud? You can easily adjust that in the Audio Clip Mixer panel. That's available in the upper left-hand panel where the source monitor is. Click the tab labeled Audio Clip Mixer. Here you'll see a number of sliders where you can click and drag up or down to make the audio tracks louder or quieter. After you're satisfied with your audio levels, you might want to add a few transitions between clips. To do this, you need to access the Effects panel. In the Editing workspace, that's located in the bottom left-hand panel. Click on the Effects tab, and then you'll be presented with a list of both video and audio effects and transitions. There's a lot here to learn and experiment with, and you should absolutely do that. For now, in this video, I just want to show you how to apply a video transition between 2 clips. To do that, click the arrow beside the folder labeled Video Transitions. Then, click the arrow beside the folder labeled Dissolve. This will bring up a list of dissolve transitions. Click, hold, and drag one of those options. I'd recommend you try the cross dissolve first, and then place that onto the video track where 2 clips butt up against one another. You might want to zoom into your timeline to make this process easier. Then you can drag your playhead at the top of the timeline back just a bit, press spacebar to watch your video, and you should see the transition. You can also apply audio transitions between audio clips in your timeline by clicking the arrow next to the folder labeled Audio Transitions. Then click, hold, and drag your audio transition onto the junction between 2 audio clips that are side by side. Using the selection tool, you can bring your cursor to the edge of your audio and video transitions and click and drag them to lengthen them or shorten them. The last thing I want to show you is how to export your project. To do this, click File in the menu bar, then pull your cursor down to Export, and then click Media. There are a lot of things to learn here, but I'm going to keep it simple. You can change the format of the output, meaning what file format the video will take when it's exported. For most purposes, especially if you're a new editor, I would just leave this be for now. I'd then click on Output Name. That will allow you to name your video and to select the location where the video will be stored after it's exported. Then click Export down at the bottom of the screen. Once the exporting process is complete, you've got a self-contained video file that you can publish or share on social media. I'll be making more video tutorials and lectures about content creation, social media analysis, editing in Premiere Pro, and Photoshop. Subscribe to follow along. Please leave a like if this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.